Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So in this video we're going to do the GCSE English Language Paper 1 walkthrough. So if we look at this schedule, we're on this date right now where we're doing the full Paper 1 walkthrough revision, and we're going to have a look at a Paper 2 overview later on. So let's first look at some exam strategies and tips. These are the best tips I would give you for English Language Paper 1. So the first tip is to read the whole extract at least once before answering any questions. Make sure you highlight key language and structural techniques as you're reading. Manage your time carefully, so don't spend too long on the earlier questions. If you don't know how to manage your time, I've made other videos explaining how long to spend on each question. Always back up your points with short, focused quotes. Use clear paragraphing and link your ideas together logically, and make sure you check your spelling, punctuation and grammar before the end of the paper. Let's have a look at Paper 1, Question 1. This is Paper 1, Question 1 from this exam paper. It gives you a little extract and it says, read again the first part of the source from lines 1 to 5. List 4 things about Zoe's surroundings from this part of the source. Pause the video now and have a go at answering it. When you're ready to check your answers, press play so we can go through it together. Right, let's have a look at this together. So the first part of this answer I've put is the fact it was snowing again in Zoe's surroundings, and you can see I've highlighted that in the extract. Next, I said snowflakes were settling on her jacket sleeve, and you can see that in the orange quotes highlighted. Then I've highlighted the pink quote here, and I've written down the air smelt of pine resin. And lastly, I've highlighted the green quote here, and I've written down across to the west were the irregular peaks of the mountain range. Let's have a look at Paper 1, Question 2. Paper 1, Question 2 is language analysis question. So it gives us another extract of the, another part of the extract, and it says, how does the writer use language here to describe Zoe's feelings? This question's 8 marks here, so you have to make sure you're doing PEEL, point, evidence, explain, link. So pause the video now, have a go at planning and writing your answer, and when you're ready to check my answer, press play. Right, let's have a look at my answer. The first thing I've highlighted is Zoe's feelings in orange because this is a topic and it's the focus of the question. Then I've highlighted the quote, few moments in life that come as clear and as pure as ice. I've said that this is a simile and an example of imagery, and it shows how she feels peace and clarity in her surroundings. This shows that her experience is rare and pure, and it suggests calmness and simplicity, linking to her feeling spiritual and one with nature. If we write in a paragraph, it looks a bit like this. So I've said, the writer uses imagery and contrast to show how Zoe experiences a moment of perfect clarity and peace. The phrase, few moments in life that come as clear and as pure as ice, compares her feeling to ice, something flawless and transparent. The simile suggests that Zoe's experience is rare and intensely pure, as if her emotions and surroundings have become one. The words clear and pure reflect calmness and simplicity, showing she feels completely connected to the mountain. This language highlights that Zoe's feelings are spiritual and transcendent, and she feels at one with nature. If we have a go at analysing this paragraph, we can see in pink here I've highlighted the point that the writer uses imagery, contrast, and how Zoe experiences a moment of perfect clarity and peace. In yellow, I've highlighted the evidence, so this is the quotes from the text. In green, I've highlighted all the explanation, which is my analysis of these quotes. And in brown, I've highlighted the link back to the focus of the question. The next quote I highlighted was, everywhere was snow and silence. Snow and silence, the complete arrest of life, a rehearsal and a pre-echo of death. Here's an example of repetition and metaphor, and it expresses both her calmness and her fear in the situation. This shows Zoe's stillness of her surroundings, and this shows that the scene appears both haunting and powerful. If we write this as a paragraph, it says, the writer contrasts beauty with danger through repetition and a metaphor to express both calm and fear. The line, everywhere was snow and silence, the complete arrest of life, a rehearsal and a pre-echo of death, uses repetition and metaphor. Repeating snow and silence emphasizes the total stillness of her surroundings, almost unnerving in its quiet. The description of it as a rehearsal of death gives the scene a haunting tone, showing Zoe's awareness of how close life and death can feel in such extreme conditions. The writer therefore captures the powerful, almost dangerous calm of the mountain and Zoe's awe at its lifeless perfection. If we analyse this paragraph here, in pink I've highlighted the points again, about it contrasting beauty with danger and the repetition and metaphor to express both calm and fear. In orange I've highlighted the evidence, which are the quotes from the text. In yellow I've highlighted the explanation, so it's the analysis of the quotes. And lastly, in green, I've highlighted the link, which is a link back to the question. In purple here, I've highlighted another quote. So it says, "They looked like weird talons of brilliant red and gold in the powder snow as she waited, ready to swoop. I am alive. I am an eagle." Here is an example of imagery in first person, and it shows Zoe's sense of freedom and excitement. It also shows the fact she's feeling energy, adrenaline, and she's feeling truly alive in the situation she's in. If we write this as a paragraph, it says, "The writer uses vivid imagery and first-person thoughts to reveal Zoe's exhilaration and sense of freedom. The simile, they look like weird talons of brilliant red and gold, and her thoughts, I am alive, I am an eagle, show this. Comparing her skis to talons makes her seem predatory and powerful, while the bright colours red and gold suggest energy and vitality. The short, simple sentences, I am alive, I am an eagle, capture her rush of adrenaline and complete freedom, as if she is transformed into something wild. The language shows that Zoe feels liberated and strong, as the mountain makes her feel truly alive. Have a go at pausing this video now and analyse this paragraph for point, evidence, explain, link. And when you've done it, press play so we can go through it together. Right, let's go through it together. So in pink here, I've highlighted the point. So it's vivid imagery and first-person thoughts, and it shows that it's revealing Zoe's exhilaration and her sense of freedom. In orange, I've highlighted the evidence, so it's the quotes from the text. In yellow is my explanation of the quotes, and purple is the link back to the focus, which is Zoe's surroundings. Let's have a look at paper 1, question 3 for English language. And this is a structure question. So it tells us to think about the whole of the source and asks us how has the writer structured the text to interest you as a reader. This question's 8 marks. So here I've posted the whole source for this question. I want you to pause the video now, have a go at breaking down this extract into beginning, middle and end, and writing down what the focus is on in each section. And when you're ready, press play so we can have a go at this together. Right, let's have a look at where I separated this text then. So I put this pink part as the beginning of the text, and I said the focus was on Zoe's surroundings and her sense of peace. If I wrote this as a paragraph, it says, at the start of the extract, the focus is on Zoe's surroundings and the tranquility of the mountain setting. This is shown through the quote, "It was snowing again. Gentle six-pointed flakes from a picture book were settling on her jacket sleeve. The mountain air prickled with ice and the smell of pine resin." The writer uses detailed imagery and sensory description, snow, cold, and pine resin, to slow the pace and immerse the reader in the calm, magical environment. The long flowing sentences reflect the stillness and beauty of the scene, and the line, "She almost thought she could die in that place, and happily," hints at later danger, keeping the reader subtly alert. This careful focus on setting at the start draws the reader in and establishes the serene yet slightly foreboding atmosphere. Let's have a go at analysing this paragraph. So in pink, I've highlighted the point that the focus is on Zoe's surroundings and tranquility of the mountain setting. In orange, I've put the evidence, so the quotes from the text. In yellow, I've put the explanations. And then here in blue, I've put the link back to the focus, which is the structure. In purple here, I've said that the middle has the focus on Zoe's feelings of exhilaration and empowerment. Let's write a paragraph on it. So I've said the focus then shifts to Zoe's feelings of exhilaration and freedom as she prepares to ski. This is shown through the quote, "I am alive, I am an eagle." Here, the writer uses short, emphatic sentences and first-person thoughts to convey her adrenaline, power, and sense of liberation. The simile, "They look like weird talons of brilliant red and gold in the powder snow," emphasizes her energy and transformation, making her feel predatory and in control. Repetition of snow and silence contrasts the earlier calm with her anticipation, heightening the reader's engagement. This shift from peaceful observation to personal exhilaration introduces action and builds excitement. So here, in pink, I've put the point, which is the feelings of exhilaration and freedom as she prepares to ski. In yellow, I've put the evidence, which are the quotes from the text. In orange is the explanation, and in blue is the link. Lastly, this blue section here is the end of the extract, and I've said the focus is on the danger, fear, and the chaos of the avalanche. And here I've written a paragraph to explain it. So I've said, finally the focus shifts to danger and suspense with the avalanche. This is shown through the quote, "Then her smile iced over. Jake was speeding straight towards her. Her face was rubberized and he mouthed something as he flew at her." The writer increases pace using rapid, fragmented sentences, conveying chaos and urgency, and vivid sensory language like being agitated inside a washing machine and chattering noise like the amplified jaws of a million termites chewing on wood, to immerse the reader in Zoe's experience. The contrast with the earlier calm and the middle section's exhilaration highlights tension. Shift in perspective between Zoe's thoughts and the physical avalanche make the danger immediate and personal, sustaining the reader's interest. Here, in blue, I've put the point of the paragraph. In yellow, I've put the evidence. In orange, I've put the explanation. And in pink, I've put the link. Lastly, I've put a little conclusion. So I've said, overall, the structure moves the reader from tranquil observation to exhilaration to sudden danger, with deliberate changes in sentence length, pace, imagery, and perspective to reflect Zoe's experience and guide the reader's emotions. The contrast between calm and chaos and the careful sequencing of events keeps the reader engaged throughout the extract. Let's have a look at Paper 1, Question 4 together. So, Paper 1 Question 4 is an evaluation question, and it gives you a specific part of the extract to focus on, and then it gives you a little statement. So here the statement is, a student said, in this part of the story where Zoe and Jake are caught in the avalanche, I can't believe Zoe is so slow to react to the warning signs, because, in the end, the situation sounds really dangerous. To what extent do you agree? So for this text, I would recommend you having to break the statement down into two parts. So the first part here would be that Zoe is so slow to react to the warning signs, and the second part is the situation sounds really dangerous. Then you have to look at line 28 to the end and pick out quotes for each part of the statement, and then you can either agree or disagree. So here I've put lines 28 to the end, and I've put the first part of the statement where Zoe is slow to react to the warning signs. I want you to pause the video now and have a go at seeing where we can see this in the extract, and what quotes either support or argue against the statement. So pick out 3 or 4 quotes and try to analyse them relating to this statement here. And when you're ready, press play so we can do it together. Right, let's have a look together. The first quote I've highlighted is the fact that she felt a small slab of snow slip from underneath her. I've said this is foreshadowing, as the slipping snow hints at danger ahead, but Zoe doesn't recognise it as a warning, and the use of sensory detail shows how close she is to danger without realising it. The next quote I've highlighted is irritated by the false start date made, and this shows tone and characterization, because instead of being alarmed, she feels frustrated, and it shows that she misjudges the seriousness of the situation, revealing her slow awareness of the danger. I've then highlighted the quote, she pushed herself down the fall line, scrambling for traction, trying to accelerate away. And I've said this is an example of action verbs and dynamic imagery, as the verbs show that Zoe's quick instinctive reaction once she knows what's happening, contrasting with her earlier slowness. So this quote and this quote agree with the fact that she's slow to react to the warning signs, and this quote disagrees as it says that she knew all along. Here I've written a first paragraph. So I've said, at first, Zoe failed to recognise the early signs of danger on the mountain when she felt a small slab of snow slip from underneath her. It is a clear warning that the ground is unstable, but she doesn't realise this. The writer uses foreshadowing as sensory imagery to hint at the danger ahead, showing how close she is to disaster without understanding it. This makes Zoe seem unprepared and slow to react, as she overlooks a crucial sign that something is about to go wrong. Here in blue, I've highlighted the point of this paragraph. I've then highlighted the evidence in yellow. Green is the explanation of the quote, and pink is the link back to the focus of the question. This is the second paragraph, and it says, Zoe's emotions also show that she misjudges the seriousness of the situation. When she is described as being irritated by the false start they'd made, her reaction shows annoyance rather than fear. The adjective irritated suggests that she views the moment as a minor inconvenience instead of recognising it as a sign of danger. Through this tone and characterisation, the writer shows Zoe's lack of awareness, which makes her seem slow to interpret the warning signs around her. This builds tension as the reader begins to sense the danger that Zoe herself has not yet been realised. In pink here, I've put the point, and it shows that she misjudges the seriousness of the situation. In green, I've put the evidence, which is the quotes. In yellow, I've put the explanation, and then in blue, I've put the link back to the question. Next paragraph here, I've said, however, once Zoe understands the danger, her reaction becomes quick and desperate. When she pushed herself down the fall line, scrambling for traction, trying to accelerate away, the use of action verbs such as pushed, scrambling, and accelerate emphasizes her instinctive and urgent attempt to escape. The dynamic imagery contrasts sharply with her earlier calmness, showing a sudden shift from ignorance to panic. Although Zoe was slow to recognize the warning signs at first, She acts with speed and determination once the danger becomes clear, highlighting the change from calm control to frantic survival. If we analyse this paragraph, you can see in blue I've highlighted the point of this paragraph, in yellow is the evidence, in orange is my explanation, and lastly in pink is the link. For the second part of the statement, which is the situation sounds really dangerous, I've put the extract here again, and again I want you to pause the video and have a go at looking where we can see this statement in the extract and what quotes can support or argue against this statement. So pause the video now and have a go at answering this part yourself. Right, let's have a look at doing this together. So first I've highlighted this quote which says, "The rumbling had become a roaring in her ears, drowning Jake's words." This is an example of sound imagery or personification, and the shift shows the danger intensifying. The avalanche is personified as a living, overpowering force which drowns out human control, suggesting complete chaos and threat. I've then heard to the quote, "roaring cloud breaking behind her like a tsunami at sea." This is an example of simile and natural imagery, and comparing the avalanche to a tsunami shows its uncontrollable and destructive power. This highlights how deadly the situation is and how small and powerless Zoe is against nature. I've written a paragraph here and it says, "The writer makes the situation sound increasingly dangerous through the use of powerful sound imagery. The description, 'the rumbling had become a roaring in her ears, drowning Jake's words,' show how the noise of the avalanche grows until it completely overpowers everything else. The shift from rumbling to roaring suggests the danger is escalating, while the idea that the sound drowns Jake's words personifies the avalanche as a living, unstoppable force. This creates a sense of chaos and panic, emphasizing how the characters are losing control as the threat closes in around them." If we analyze this paragraph, here in orange I've put the point, in yellow is my evidence, in blue is my explanation, and in pink is the link back to the focus. Next paragraph here, I've put the danger is further highlighted through the comparison of the avalanche to a natural disaster. The simile, "the roaring cloud breaking behind her like a tsunami at sea," shows the avalanche's enormous power and destructive energy. By likening it to a tsunami, the writer conveys its unstoppable force and the sense that Zoe is completely powerless against it. This vivid natural imagery helps the reader visualize the scale of the danger and understand how overwhelming and life-threatening the situation has become. Here in pink, I've put my points. In yellow is my evidence and my quotes. In green is my explanation and analysis. And lastly, in orange is the link. Right, let's have a go at paper 1, question 5. So paper 1, question 5, paper 1, you have an option of 2 questions. So you can either write a story about a magical world as suggested by this picture, or you can describe a place you think is beautiful. So you can choose one. So pause the video now and have a think about which one you're going to do. We're going to start by looking at the picture one here. So if you want to do the picture one, start with this video. Otherwise, you can forward the video a little bit until we look at the description. If you're doing the picture one, pause the video now, have a go at annotating the picture and writing a little story, and press play once you want to have a look at my example. Okay, let's have a look at my example. So here I've said first, the writer shows a young child holding a glowing snow globe and staring at it with wonder. I've then said you should use the image as a springboard for imagination, and you shouldn't describe it literally the whole time you're writing this answer. Here I've focused in on the child's expression, so she's showing wonder, curiosity and innocence. She's holding a glowing snow globe, so this shows mysteriousness. She's showing magical and maybe it holds a secret world. And then I focused on the light, so this is a soft, warm, natural light through the window which contrasts with the globe's natural glow. I've then looked at the setting, which is a quiet room, and it shows a peaceful atmosphere, showing a sense of isolation or discovery perhaps. Here I've shown potential avenues for this question, so we could look at it in terms of a portal world, where the snow globe is a gateway and the child is pulled inside into a frozen or enchanted land. We could look at it in terms of the creator of worlds, so whatever the child imagined appears inside the globe and the whole world is shaped by thought. We could look at it as the memory keeper, where the globe reveals memories, showing moments from the past or glimpses of the future. We could look at it in terms of the guardian's test, where the globe chooses a child to restore balance to a long-lost magical world. And lastly, we could look at it in terms of reality blending, where the magic from the globe leaks into reality, snow falls indoors, and a fantasy becomes real. For the sake of this video, we're going to have a look at the Memory Keeper, where the globe reveals memories, showing moments from the past or glimpses of the future. Right, so here I've put a little plan for the story. So I've provided a part for the opening where we set the scene, the middle for the discovery, and the ending for the resolution. Let's have a look at the opening here. So I've said, the room was silent except for the ticking of the old clock. Light slanted through the curtains, catching the dust that hung in the air like tiny ghosts. On the shelf sat a snow globe, its glass clouded with age. Amelia lifted it carefully, brushing away the dust. The cold glass pressed against her palms as she gave it a gentle shake. For a moment she expected snow, but instead the mist inside began to swirl, forming colours, shapes, people. She gasped. Inside, a tiny scene flickered to life, herself at 5 years old, laughing as her grandfather lifted her hat into the air. She could almost hear his voice, soft and warm, saying, "Hiya, Millie, you can touch the stars." The image shimmered, then faded into silver again. Amelia's heart twisted. She shook the globe once more. This time she saw herself by a hospital bed, holding his hand, whispering goodbye. The light dimmed. Even the air felt colder. A tear rolled down her cheek. She clutched the globe, afraid to shake it again, afraid of what might appear. But something inside her urged her to try one more time. The mist parted slowly, and there he was again, smiling, waving from within the glass. The light around him glowed brighter than before, filling the room with warmth. It was as if the memory itself reached out to hold her. When the glow faded, the globe was still, but the room didn't feel empty anymore. Amelia placed it back on the shelf, and as she turned to leave, a faint light shimmered through the glass. Quiet, gentle, eternal. Right, let's have a go at analysing this answer that I've written for you guys. So here, where I've written catching the dust that hung in the air like tiny ghosts is an example of a simile. Here, clouded with age is an example of a metaphor. The quote, colours, shapes, people is an example of a list, also known as a triple. The part where it says she gasped is an example of a short sentence, and at 5 years old is an example of a flashback. The part where it says, "Hiya, Millie, you can touch the stars," is an example of speech. And the sentence, "Amelia's heart twisted," is an example of a short sentence. And this quote, "This time she saw herself by a hospital bed," is another shift in time, and it keeps the reader engaged. If we have a look at this paragraph together, where it says, "A tear rolled down her cheek," is an example of emotive language. Where it says, "Afraid and afraid," is an example of repetition. Where it says, "Filling the room with warmth," is an example of a metaphor. The memory itself reached out to hold her is an example of personification. And quiet, gentle, and eternal is an example of a triple, also known as a list of 3. Here, let's have a go at the story. So we have to describe a place you think is beautiful. Have a go at planning this answer together and press play once you have to have a look at my examples. Right, let's have a go at analysing this together. So I've put some possible avenues for this story, and I've said we can do this as a seaside or a beach where we look at waves, sand, sun and the horizon. We can do it as a forest and a woodland where we look at trees, sunlight, wildlife and calm. We can do it as mountains and hills where we look at the peaks, mist, panoramic views and awe. We can do it as a city where there's urban beauty and the skyline, lights, architecture, atmosphere. We can also do it as a personal and meaningful place, as a bedroom, garden, childhood spot and nostalgia. For this video, we're going to have a look at a forest/woodland where we have trees, sunlight, wildlife and calm. This is the plan for the story. So we have an opening where the scene is set, senses, which is the main description, and personal feelings as the ending. Let's have a go at reading my paper then. So I've said, the forest stretched before me, bathed in the soft gold of early morning. Sunlight filtered through the tall, whispering trees, casting dancing shadows across the moss-covered ground. A gentle mist clung to the undergrowth, giving the world a dreamlike, almost magical quality. Tiny droplets hung on spiderwebs like delicate jewels, glinting as the light touched them. Birdsong filled the air, a cheerful chorus bouncing between the trucks, while the subtle rustle of leaves whispered secrets as the wind meandered through the branches. Somewhere in the distance, the steady drip of melting dew echoed softly. The earthy scent of damp soil and pine needles mingled, grounding me in the quiet beauty of the woodland. I ran my fingers over the rough bark of an ancient oak, feeling the history etched into its surface, and pressed my palm against soft, springy moss, marvelling at its coolness. A shaft of sunlight broke through the canopy, illuminating a cluster of wildflowers, their colours vivid against the green. As I walked along the winding path, a profound calm settled over me, as if the forest had absorbed all my worries. Light flickered on the leaves like tiny golden flames, and I felt a quiet awe at the delicate balance of life surrounding me. In that moment, I was part of the forest, yet entirely free from the world beyond its edge, carrying me with a sense of wonder I knew I would never forget. Here, let's have a go at analysing the answer. So in pink, I've put personification, where it says whispering trees, casting dancing shadows, clung and hung. In blue, I've put some sensory detail to create magical environment. This can be shown through the words forest, sunlight, moss-covered ground, magical, delicate jewels and glinting. In orange, I've put some metaphors and the connection to the place, showing emotional engagement. This can be shown through the quotes whispered secrets and grounding me in the quiet beauty of the woodland. In green, I've put that this whole paragraph has a varied sentence structure, so it's a mix of long descriptive sentences and shorter phrases for rhythm. And lastly, in the bottom orange part, I've put some examples of visual imagery and symbolism, adding brightness and focus to the scene. In purple here, I've put I was part of the forest yet entirely free as an example of a strong closing, leaving the reader with a lasting image.